I put it on my office website, and there's like a couple of minute clips and stuff, and then people were watching him, and I had trackers. I'm like, oh man, this person in Germany has just watched this video like 30 times this week. There's a big demand. Do you know how much I was paying for surgical stents? Do you?
Tell me.
You don't know this?
No idea.
What?
I have no idea.
Like you completely destroyed that market, and you have no idea how much.
I have no idea.
Are you serious?
Serious.
A multi-billion-dollar company. They're calling our support number for help on Medit, and we're like, dude, we're your competitors. Like this is awful for you to be calling us.
Arguably, you made Medit.
Let's break this down. It's not an easy market to penetrate.
What's your go-to scanner these days?
There's no such thing as the most accurate scan. Photogrammetry is a stereo camera that picks up everything you need in one big field of view. Do you know why that is, by the way?
Photogrammetry?
Yeah, it might be too
Let's geek out now. What do you think of the new iTero?
It's so funny you say that.
Armen, there is no one in dentistry who doesn't know you. And I see you as entrepreneur and dentist. Mm-hmm. Which one do you like to be identified as?
Definitely dentist. I'm almost uncomfortable saying entrepreneur. I mean, I've tried quite a few things that have failed. I've tried quite a few things that have worked out. But bottom line, I'm a dentist. That's how I relate to all of our clients. I have the same struggles they do. I deal with margins. I deal with staff. I deal with all the same stuff. And it's just the way it's ingrained in me. So I'd say dentist first.
What was the first company you started?
First company besides our dental practice was CerecDoctors. Uh-huh. This is back in, so I graduated in dental school in 1998. I did a GPR in Hawaii, Queens Medical Center. It was a great experience. Wow. Yeah, you can go months and not know you're in Hawaii because you're just in the hospital all day long. There are no other residents in plastic surgery and oral surgery or ENT, so we got to see all the facial traumas, stuff I don't see at all in my practice anymore. It was a great, phenomenal experience. And then from there, moved back to California, started practice from scratch, and then I saw a presentation on Cerec, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be practicing next 3 decades analog way. I'm getting into digital. Why not get into it now? So we started from scratch. Within a year, I bought the Cerec, and it took off from there. And then the first business, to answer your question, it's an awesome story, actually. What happened was up until 2001, 2002, all the Cerec design software was in 2 dimensions. So you had like 6 windows open. So you kind of had to visualize what a 3D crown would look like.
This is pre-CAD.
This is pretty much, before the graphics
2D.
Cards were good enough to give you a 3D rendering.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh, it was hell. So you would have you have layers and layers and slices, and you have to visualize, in one cross section how it looks. Basically, you just milled anything that would fit, and then you would grind in the occlusion, you'd grind in the body, you'd grind in the anatomy. That's how bare basic it was, right?
Rudimentary.
Yeah, it was miserable. There was less than 2,000 users in the U.S. when I got into it. I didn't understand all this. It's all in retrospect.
Right.
There's only 2,000 people dumb enough to have bought that machine back then. I mean, it's just.
How much was it?
It was $85,000, I think.
85
Don't quote me on that. Yeah, it's gone. It's doubled over the 2 decades. So what happened was, I think it was 2003 or 4. I forget the exact date, but they got graphics cards. They went to 3D. So all of a sudden, that crown that I was struggling with, I can see it. I'm like, oh, I can manage this. I can move this around. I can design this. So. Long story short, the software was beta. It was in German. We used to live in Germany. I speak a little bit of German, not enough to run the CAD software. No help, nothing whatsoever. And I prefer to use that software over the original, the 2-dimensional software.
I see.
Right? It's because it's so intuitive. Like I didn't need to learn. I didn't need to speak the language. So next thing I know, they launched this product. And no one knows it like I do because I've been grinding it out for all this time. I've been using it. So all of a sudden I'm getting calls from Germany from this company, Sirona. Their engineers or their people calling me, how'd you do this? I'm like, wait a second, this is your product. What do you mean, how did I get the bite this way? Like, you're the ones
you're teaching them.
So I look around, I'm like, holy shit, I know more than anyone. And I got a camcorder, and then I started to record what I was doing. And this is back, you're maybe not born yet. You remember the days where you used to have to pay for bandwidth on your website?
Sure.
It was not all, Yeah. So I put it on my website, on my office website.
It's pre-YouTube, probably.
Pre-YouTube. Arduous process.
Right.
Camcorder, record what I'm doing before you can do screen grabs, screen shares. And then I put it on my office website, and there's like a couple of minute clips and stuff. And then people were watching them and I had trackers. I'm like, oh man, this person in Germany has watched this video from the same IP address. Has watched this video like 30 times this week. This is weird. And all of a sudden I started getting charged for the bandwidth. I'm like, holy shit, there's a big demand. People are looking to me. And I was a classic, hermit, leave me alone in my dental office. I don't want to be bothered. I just want to play with my margins, do dental work. And next thing I know, I'm being asked to speak about it. Next thing I know, I'm being asked to teach on it. Next thing I know, I am a basic trainer in Los Angeles. And actually the year that CEREC went from 2D to 3D, don't quote me on this. I'm not sure if it's correct or not, but they sold the most number of machines in their history in that 1 year.
Interesting.
They have not, I don't think they've ever matched those thousands of machines, like every weekend nonstop of basic training. It started from there. And then that wasn't CerecDoctors just yet. And then we launched CerecDoctors, where we did exactly this. We put tutorials on the site. We had tons of people who learn how to use the CEREC system. Not easy to use when you're first getting out, to just watching stuff online. I've done that repeatedly over the last 2 decades. One little side note to say you'll laugh. So this is 2006. How many companies were running pay-per-view videos online in 2006?
Very little.
What companies were?
I know. Yeah.
What can you think of that? If you were going to start a website and you wanted to put up videos and have
That's
a
what you guys
paywall-
did back then.
Yes, in 2006. What industry
Exactly.
had that mastered compared to any other industry? It's the adult entertainment
Yes.
industry, right? Like, okay, so we actually contacted some companies that build the websites. How do we build a paywall? How do we do the videos? How do we do all this stuff?
So you can charge for your content.
Yeah, and then we told them how much business we did. Like, oh, you guys are so it's not worth our time. We're not gonna do. So we had to build everything from scratch, put the videos up, have a paywall that people would, you'd pay the tuition to get on there and learn from there, and then that parlayed into doing hands-on courses. That parlayed into having our course at the Scottsdale Center, which is now called the Spear Education Center. So it took off from there.
So you said we launched CerecDoctors. I didn't know you were part of the early founding members. Or can you tell me the full story? I actually didn't know it. This is a surprise to the first time I'm seeing it.
Oh I started. I started CerecDoctors. I grabbed the URL. I registered a URL, I think in 2003 or 2004.
No way.
Yeah. There was a CerecDoctor URL. That was somebody in the Netherlands, I think. So I just registered the CerecDoctor's name. And then we started it, and I think officially 2006, I don't remember. And I sold my shares, got out by the end, December 31st, 2012, I think. I was
Wow.
out with it, yeah.
Who else was with you?
There's another guy named Samir Puri.
Samir Puri, yeah, I know
was,
Sam. I didn't
he's
know that.
with CDocs. I think he's no longer
Yeah,
there.
he left a
moved
couple
on.
of weeks ago, I
He
guess.
joined the DSO.
Interesting.
We
And
started,
then Splice bought the whole thing? Is that what
I
happened?
don't know what happened after I left.
I see.
I don't know for.
So I think we're going to get to why you left. But
Sure, we can get into that.
But let me ask you this. The kind of your timeline. So your CerecDoctors was the first business, like
Yes.
outside of dentistry business?
Yes,
I
sure.
see. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So how was it? Early days to the part that you left?
So it was phenomenal experience. God, there's so many ways to categorize this. So for one, for sure, we were a very significant sales arm, an extension of Cerrone and Patterson. It got to the point where I would lecture, and I'm like, oh my God, I just got paid thousands of dollars to do this presentation. And I look around like, wait a second, they just sold like $6 million worth of CERECs and milling
Equipment there.
machines. Actually, that was in the back of my head the whole time. I was like, wait, I'm just speaking. Why don't I just start selling it myself? That's pretty much why CadRay is where that's where we got to today. So there was definitely a need, and I'm sure you've identified this. You have a lot of KOLs, you have incredible clinicians that support you and your product. But it's very easy for me to talk to a doctor and say, no, fix your margins this way. Don't do this. Don't do this. Do that. This is where you're going to fail. It carries a lot more credibility. A salesperson can absolutely do that. There's some incredibly gifted, well-versed sales technicians out there, but they just can't talk to the doctors the same way.
Credibility, it comes from you.
Exactly. Sharing experiences of failures. It's a completely different approach, right? So to me, it was very simple. Just talk about what I like doing. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I enjoy playing with the computers. I enjoy design. I enjoyed milling. I can sit there and look at the milling machine all day. It's just fascinating to me, right? The printers as well. That was the real easy part, to communicate how this stuff works. And that facilitated a lot of sales. Serona and Patterson did extremely well. They still do, parlayed from there. Then we had courses. The Spear Center, which was called the Scottsdale Center, was started, I believe, 2010, 11, if I'm not mistaken. And for the longest time, we're the only courses there. So once a month, we're the only people generating revenue there. Gordon Christensen was signed on at some point to do some courses there, and ultimately it became Spear Education. And so we're just doing the Cerec courses.
And then you were making money from online courses back then, and also in person.
Yes.
What was the revenue? If you remember it.
I cannot divulge that.
Right, really.
Yeah. There's some contracts.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But the business model was online, in person.
Yes.
Next to Spears, they were funneling more probably doctors to you. Is that what it was?
I would say maybe the other way around. So
or you were funneling more.
Yeah, we were definitely. So people came to us for Cerec education. It definitely people knew us for it. We had a good reputation. No, I'm joking, saying we funneled people to Spear, but people would come to our courses. We're always sold out. Started with a simple course that went to a 2-day. 2 courses and ultimately 4 courses. I forget how many there were altogether. So we were pretty busy. Dentists learned very differently. Some people need the best thing about hands-on. So you can learn everything you need to online, not do hands-on. It's just you just can't pay attention like you can at hand. When you're hands-on, you're removed from the office. You can make business decisions. You can focus. You're not putting out fires. No one is disrupting you. The system doesn't come in and say, "Hey, the crown's over," whatever. You don't have any of those distractions. So to get away from the office is important, to lock yourself and focus on that topic. And then if you remember 20% of a course, that's phenomenal. You need some kind of refresher. You need to go back and have resources. So everything I do now is I give everybody the big overview of how they can use their scanners and printers and all that. And then the meat of the material is up to you. You can spend 5 years studying printers and learning all the different ways you can use it, right? So there's a ton. It's just never-ending, the amount of material that people can cover and get into. The funnest thing is to see somebody who's apprehensive about getting into digital. Okay, perfect example, your friend Vu Lee. Vu Lee was not the tech person he was 10 years ago, right?
Interesting.
He had all the apprehension about getting into Cerec. Then he gets into Cerec. He starts all doing all this stuff. Now he's a renowned digital dentist, right? So that's the most flattering part. When you see a doctor come in who is hesitant, they're skeptical, like, I don't want to do this. What did I sign up for? It's a waste of money, buy all those things. And then to see them call within a short period of time, hey, Armen, I want a printer. Hey, Armen, I want this. I want that. So we have a lot of customers that come back for more stuff. That means we're doing a good job. So it's exciting.
So what happened then in those Cerec days? What was the fallout?
No, it's just the right time to move on. I would say the biggest compelling thing was I realized we're a big sales force, and I wasn't being compensated as a salesperson.
I see. Your value to the organization.
I was cheap labor. It sounds. I don't mean to sound.
No, it makes sense.
It's not a negative sounding thing, but yeah, if I'm helping if I'm the reason somebody bought a $150,000 machine, why don't I sell that $150,000 machine? So I tried that. So I left. I sold my shares, got out.
2006.
End of 2012, beginning of 2013. So you know what? December 31st, 2012 was done with CerecDoctors.
I see.
And then, so then I started, so the distribution model is always in the back of my mind. I've gone to, how many people said no to us before? So 2018 is when it took off.
Cad Ray.
Before that, as a distribution company, I got denied left and right. Like I flew to Copenhagen
for the 3Shape.
For 3Shape, like, no, we don't want you to distribute. So many people say no at the beginning because I get it. You need to. Who am I? I'm nobody. I don't have a sales force. I don't have a support team. Like how are you gonna do all this? And they also need to show money in the bank too, so that you can buy supplies and all that, right? So actually that didn't happen at all. Trying to land distribution with other companies. So what I did is I started CadRay. This is like the fourth or fifth iteration of it. At one point, we had imaging centers, one in Chicago that we talked about a little bit earlier, and then 3 in Los Angeles. And we started CT imaging people. So I would say I was very gung-ho about CEREC for a really long time, and then I got the 3D X-ray, and then my path and my career completely changed.
So that was in the middle of CDocs and CadRay, the 3D imaging?
Yes.
So what year you started that, and what was the business model?
2013, I bought...
that was a mobile CT imaging?
No,
it was not mobile?
It was not mobile.
It's just centers?
It was centers.
Doctors sending you?
Yes.
Okay.
So I had a couple of doctors working for me who would scan the patients, and this is a great topic to talk to you, especially with the CEO of CerecDoctors. So before we were able to print surgical stents, do you know how much I was paying for surgical stents? Do you
Tell me.
You don't know this?
No idea.
What?
I have no idea.
You completely destroyed that market, and you have no idea how much?
I have no idea.
Are you serious?
Serious.
So surgical stents prior to 2013 in the market, I know the military was printing them. In the market, you had to mill them. So, and where it was being milled in Germany by a company that Cerona ultimately bought. So we would send the designs to Germany. They would mill them out of these pucks. It would take an hour and a half to mill one surgical stent, $400
for one guide.
For one guide. So,
wow, that's CCAT, right?
Yes.
I see.
Yeah, the original.
I had no clue.
We have to check those numbers. Wait, you absolutely
I came to dentistry in 2017,
You completely
16.
destroyed those
I'm
people
sorry.
lost a lot of money building milling machines to mill surgical stents, and you wiped it clean. Because now we get the surgical stent
for dollars, right?
Yeah, it's like $19. Okay, so let's run you through this. So, in my office, I had placed a bunch of implants, and it didn't turn out to my liking. Luckily, I didn't, injure a patient. It's just bad positioning. You're doing it freehand. So I stopped placing implants for a while. Then when I got into this guided surgery, I'm like, okay, this is great. I mean, there's still plenty of complications that come up, but at least I can place it where it belongs, right? So I started placing them, every single one, fully guided, and I didn't make $1 in the surgery. By the time I paid for the stent and the implant and all that stuff, that was But my restorative costs, so it was a package deal. Implant, abutment, crown, I made plenty of profit. But the surgical component by itself, I didn't. But I definitely thought guided surgery was the future. So I would, that's why I started the imaging centers. Like, okay, people who don't have CT machines can come to me, they'll look at the CT scans, we'll take intraoral scans, whatever it is, we'll design it. And then pretty quickly, I'm like, people are not paying this much money for it. I'm the dumb one that paid $400 for a surgical stent. Like nobody else. It's a very some handful of people did, but most people wanted the imaging solution. Like, I can see in 3D, I can see where the bone is. I can. So that was that. Prior to that, people were like, I don't need a CT scan. In the last 10 years, a surgeon would be crazy. You'd be crazy not to have a CT. Okay, you don't do guided, that's fine. You have the hand skills. But not having a CT scan to at least see that stuff is nuts to me.
What was that lawsuit that you said CCAT sued everyone who could design a surgical guide? That's the first time we had dinner, you mentioned that.
So the integration of, I have to double check this. Actually, this is correct. The integration of CT scan with CAD CAM was by the CCAT company that Cerona ultimately bought, and they had the patent on it. So when all these other companies, like Anatomage was one.
Anatomage.
Yeah. And of course, Dentsply, Simplant, I think was the name of the software. So there were like 6 to 12 companies. It's been so long. It's been 10 years. But they sued a bunch of these companies. And I think what happened is they sued Dentsply. And in that lawsuit, over the patent lawsuit, they decided to merge and become one company, Dentsply Cerona.
That didn't catch you, right? The lawsuit?
I was worried about it for sure. I was worried about it. So I bought 4 or 5 CT scans to do everything by the book with that product line, with that patent line. And then it just blew up. The big one was same timing, Blue Sky Bio comes out with their software.
That changed the game for sure.
Blue Sky Bio has probably generated a lot of business for you.
For us, yeah.
Absolutely, right? Because now...
It was very natural to print guides, and that was the first application.
Yes. So I got the Blue Sky Bio software. We started printing them with a Cell Robox printer. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember blue one.
The hot blue
printer. Yeah.
It worked. So sloppy, messy, a lot of cleanup. Like it get tied up around the spindle, whatever it's called.
Making spaghetti.
And then it would cool, and then gosh, you got to dismantle the whole thing. So that's actually a very defining moment when the software was free. So that removed a lot of barriers, and then export $19-20, whatever it is,
cheap.
And then print for a couple of bucks, completely changed the ballgame. So the biggest thing I learned, by the way, from that imaging center stuff, so I would say more than half of our users, after they send a couple of patients a month to you, they're like, well, this is the monthly nut for my machine. Why don't I buy a machine myself? But luckily, I was in the business of teaching them how guided surgery works, teaching them how CT scans work. So I didn't mind that they're buying their own machines.
Mm-hmm.
So all that was in preparation for the CadRay distribution business. So
what year was it? 2015, 16, right?
Officially July 2018.
That you started CadRay.
Yes, the distribution model, not the imaging.
What happened to the imaging? Sold it?
Peanuts compared to the...
But you still have it?
Didn't even sell it. Just closed them. It was an absolute transition from that to this.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you an entrepreneurial question. That pivoting and moving on from what's not working or what's not working to your liking,
yes,
not everyone has it. It's a little bit of intuition as well as having the guts to basically say, you know what, I'm going to close it down, move on to the next one. I think you did it once from the CDocs, moving on for whatever reason that you didn't share. Yeah. And then once again, you saw
that.
For
the record, I didn't share a single thing.
Absolutely. You didn't share it. Not share it. Yeah. And then you moved on to the next one, which was the imaging. But after the imaging, you started CadRay. I want to hear those decision-making moments. And
it's funny you say that because I came in here trying to flip this whole thing on you and try to interview you because I think your story is way more interesting than what I'm going through. So the question I was going to ask you is, was there what was the most defining moment when you're a graduate student at USC, you guys are tinkering around, you're fucking around trying to figure this stuff out. What was the moment you're like, holy shit, we're onto something? Is there one?
It is. No, it is. I tell you when it was. I know exactly the date. To me, it's like following the path of least resistance. It's like water.
Yeah, fair.
And it's just whatever works to pursue it. Like, to me, dentistry wasn't something I planned. Yeah. It was just started to see, doctors are talking to me. Doctors are geeking out with me, spending 2 hours brainstorming on ideas. Yeah. I was the early signs, and I was enjoying it as an engineer. It was fun. That moment was 4th of July of 2017. Mm-hmm. That we priced the printer. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that was yesterday. Yeah. It's amazing. Like 6 years. It was only 6 years ago. 7
years ago.
That's crazy. Monumental.
And then
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No worries. It was at 10. I think we priced it. Someone told us price it at $10,000 or $15,000. Mm-hmm. That 4th of July, I ran a promo for I think $4,000. Brought the printer down, price down, and we sold like 60 printers. I was like, what happened?
Yeah, you didn't even expect it.
I had no clue.
Where did you post? Like, how did you market it?
Blue Sky Bio Group.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was Blue Sky Bio Group.
That's awesome, dude.
And then,
because Formlabs was already out. Because Formlabs came out of the gates,
They were ahead of us.
They were ahead of you by a year or two or something?
As a company, by 2 to 3 years. Dentistry, probably by 1 year.
Yeah, because I remember the Cell Robox I'm printing. I'm like, this is garbage. And then Formlabs came out, and they're cranking, right? They
were selling a lot. They were slow. And I looked at all the different area I can compete with them in jewelry, in character design engineering. They were pretty good. But in dental, they didn't have speed. Mm-hmm. And I said, speed it matters for dentistry. I'm just going to focus on dentistry because I beat them in dentistry. They can't print a guide in 20, 30 minutes. I can. Theirs is like 3 hours. Yeah. It's an easy value proposition. Yeah. That was the thing. That was July of 2017. And when Patterson signed us up, we shut down any dental marketing because we still had some, and also clinician. We had some lab stuff. We shut it down. Want to be working with clinicians.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that process. Okay, let's go back for a second. From the minute you guys started building 3D printers to that July 4th, 2017, what's that time frame?
First 3 years.
Okay, so you were grinding it.
Yeah, 3 years we were grinding and running out of money, not having money to pay the bills.
That's a great story. How many times did you almost give up? Many times.
I don't know.
Not really?
It's a game of survival. I think
that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, I believe if you survive long enough, then something happens. That's it. I don't know what.
Stay in the game. Yeah.
Just stay in the game.
That makes sense.
To me, that was it. That was just staying in the game. It was not giving up. It was more like, how do I extend my life by another 6 months or another 1 year? Because I saw it was working.
Yeah, but this is all while you're trying to balance getting your PhD in engineering, right?
That was, yes, sort of. Well, I had 1 year of overlap. And then the overlap was during doing the... You turned this podcast around.
That was my goal.
No, we gotta go back.
Absolutely. It's good stuff.
Yeah, 1 year of overlap that I was doing the PhD and I started the company. And I didn't want to quit. I'm a Persian family. My father expects a degree. The 1 year I juggled, it was hard.
Yeah.
But it was during the time that we were manufacturing in scale. So it was nothing to do commercially. I was just working with manufacturing sites and talking to my partners to get it stabilized, find some resin partners back then because we didn't have any resin when we started with Software Harbor.
So this was not a university-inspired project. This is all you on the side.
Me
you
and
work
my
all day, try to get your
co-founders,
PhD, and then on the side you started a business.
This was side gig, and 3D printing was... We were 3D printing researchers, so we were exposed to what they can do, but we had no clue.
What do you mean you're 3D printing researchers?
Our PhD was additive manufacturing research, so we were printing metals, concrete, polymers, ceramics. Every day we were going to a lab. How do we 3D print this metal in new ways?
Can you print
we didn't research it. I think it will happen. It's a game of materials, biomaterials.
You need a scaffolding that you can print for bone graft. So you can take the CT scan. Let's say there's grafting you're going to be doing or jaw surgery. They need to resect a section. You can pre-print the whole matrix that's going to hold everything together. I mean, I think it's being done with ceramics and zirconia in Europe. There's that one company, I forget the name, but that's been around.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If we can print that in ceramic, it will work. It's biocompatible.
Yes.
Interesting. We were more on the engineering aspect of it too. How do we make a more affordable metal printer? How do we make my thesis was on concrete 3D printing. For 3D printing on the surface of Moon and Mars. So it was a NASA-sponsored project.
Wait, why are we talking to me?
No, come on.
3D printing on Mars? That's way more interesting. We gotta hear more about that.
We're here for you.
No, man, this is so much more interesting. No, seriously, that was okay. So it's bad. I got more questions now.
This is an interesting podcast. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. Armen.
So I don't know if you want the next question.
Ask me
in the video. But when you like my brother that we all went to med school. They all went to med school and stuff. But there's a clear distinction. Like you can't start a business while you're at the university. Was there any concern that they would own your proprietary information?
Yes, there is legitimate concern. We licensed 4 or 5 patents. Ended up doing that. So they had
from university.
It was not a direct IP, but there was some IP ready for us. That's how we reconciled that. But I got into issue with my advisor. He was pissed.
Yeah, of course. You're outperforming
what are you
him.
doing? Yeah, I don't know if it was... I don't want to talk about that. I love the guy.
You don't want that on record
either. He didn't like that. He didn't like that, and he made a point to tell me that he didn't like that. Even to date, he doesn't speak with me. Because
did it harm you in any way?
No, he didn't harm me.
You got your PhD?
He helped me to get up, but he never liked that. That
you're running a business on the side. That's
and
crazy. That's like the American dream.
You know?
What do you mean he's mad at you?
He was a great guy. Helped me a lot. But to date, he doesn't speak with me. It's been 10 years almost.
Is the person still at USC?
He is still. Yeah, he doesn't speak with me.
It would be pretty hilarious if he ends up working for you at some point.
Anyhow.
Up to you if you want to edit that stuff out or not.
Okay.
But I love stories like that. Yeah, because it's pretty strict.
You should start a podcast.
I don't know, Amir. I mean, I don't listen to them, but to be honest with you, I just have an hour. Maybe when we're driving, my wife puts on a podcast. But I have no idea if people are going to listen to this. I'd be shocked if people watch this. But yeah, that's good stuff.
Good.
So
hold on, no, let's go back to you. I want to get Armen's story. We do another Amir story.
Dude, I don't have building printers for Mars type of stories. No, I don't.
No, CadRay. So medical imaging. Let's go back to our timeline.
Yes.
You said this education plus distribution model work. You tested it before with CDocs.
Yes.
It was working. And
Yeah.
how do you choose the name CadRay?
Let's go back to even before the imaging. CadRay is a play on X-ray. So
Right.
it's computer-aided -ray, -ray. So what I'd done is I filed for a patent in 2004. I abandoned. I spent quite a lot of money on it. But it was basically you take the X-ray sensor and you shoot X-rays from 3 or 4 different angles, and then the software algorithm puts those 3D images together and gives you a 3D tooth. That's where the name CadRay came from.
Interesting.
I abandoned that because I kept going back and forth. The
So you could 3D scan using X-ray, basically. That was the concept.
Yes. I wouldn't say 3D. You can just take an X-ray from different angles.
Yeah, and just put them together.
And then derive the algorithm, could figure out
works.
you have a 3D...
That's how CBCTs are today, in a way.
Yes.
In a way.
But yeah, it's a big sensor. It's not an intraoral sensor.
Right.
Yes, it's essentially
So
the
you
same
pursued that as a project.
thing. I tried to patent it, and I kept going back and forth with the patent office. As you know, you need a huge patent team. You need a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And then you get the patents. You got to have the money to defend the patent, right? So I just wanted to get a patent pending status. I can start pitching it to people I know. And they weren't interested. Ironically, I did read a patent 10 years later by Sirona on this exact same thing. So I got the patent pending on this 3D X-ray.
They ran into your patent.
10 years later, after I abandoned it, I saw their patent exact. I'll bring it up for you. This was like about 4 years ago. I read it. Whatever. I mean, I just didn't have the means, the know-how, the engineering. I mean, it's a monumental undertaking. You need programmers, you need money, and then you got to protect the patent, like I said.
Yeah.
So that's where the name came from, and it just stuck. And then
you picked it for the education model.
Exactly.
So 2018 was the first year of
2018. So 2018.
By yourself or partners?
Partners. You know our partners.
Yes.
They actually play a bigger role for you than I do, to be frank with you, Amir. Because quite honestly, in the beginning, we're so focused on scanners. They're like, let's bring on printing. I'm like, I don't have the capacity to bring on printing.
Yeah, we chase you a lot.
Yeah. So because I was just so focused on intraoral scanners, and that's going extremely well. So I didn't want any distractions. I wanted to focus on that. So we brought on printers. It's a very big part of what we do now. So summer of 2018, there was an old friend of ours who got a job at Medit, and luckily they were extremely clueless. Like they had no presence in America. There's nothing established. They're selling desktop scanners. So they said yes to us distributing. So put that in context with all the people that said no prior to that. They're like, sure, you guys can distribute.
So you picked them up.
So we picked them up, and this is a whole other topic here too.
Let's actually talk about it, because arguably you made Medit.
I like to. I'm not arrogant. I'm not.
But you take credit for that.
Okay, let's break this down.
Okay, let's do it.
You're a company in Korea. You don't have anything in the United States. You have all these heavy hitters. You have the Shines and the Pattersons and the Trios, and it's not an easy market to penetrate. Like you can look at Plan Mecca and E4D. You can arguably say they struggle trying to break into that market. I have no idea what numbers they have. I have no idea how many machines they sell. So everybody thinks it was the price point, the $18,000 price point that made Medit happen, because everything else was pretty much twice as much, right? From everything you know, with the number of printers you've sold in the last 6-7 years, how easy is it for a dentist to put down $18,000?
It's not easy.
It's not easy, right?
It's a lot of money.
So you still have to convince them.
Teach them, train them.
Does it work? Nobody else. Actually, you know what? Speaking of nobody, there's not a single published article on Medit that says it's accurate. There's nothing. There's fucking nothing, right? There's nothing. There's like a couple of really like general. There's quite a few bad articles, and it's usually other scanners bagging on that scanner themselves, but there's nothing. So I had to show that it works, and our whole team, my partners, we had to make sure that our customers were happy. That didn't have buyers. We worked our asses off. Like there were times where the machine's defective. We'd buy a machine ourselves as a backup. We didn't want the doctors to be bothered at all. So from our own stock, we would send a machine next day replacement because it would take Medit 3-4 weeks to get it, right? Mm-hmm. So I like to think we played a pivotal role putting them on the map because you had to prove its reliability. Does it work? People just didn't want to take the risk. Is it viable? Does it fit? Our biggest problem was getting labs to accept the scans. Like so many labs, like it's not a 3Shape scanner. We don't work with this. You just turn business. You know how many hundreds of labs are like, we don't want this. Like, what are you talking? I'm giving you business. It's crazy. It's wild. Now they all do it. Like we had to teach Glidewell how to accept cases from Medit.
With Medit.
And now they sell the Medit. It's a ironic situation. But the bottom line is we have to show a lot of people how to accept scans. And then you'll run to labs. You're familiar with the CAD software, right? There's some labs who only have one CAD software. And Medit, the scans initially worked great with ExoCAD, not with 3Shape. So many labs would say, I don't have ExoCAD. I'm not going to accept your case. I only work with 3Shape. We're like, dude, it's like
stupid,
just buy the freaking software.
Take the money.
It's not much, dude.
Interesting.
Or have your buddy down the street, whoever, have them design it for you. Or why are you turning business away? It was very strange. But I get it now. Like in my office, we have a filtering system, right? You have a screening system. There's a gatekeeper. There's so many because you don't want to mess up production, the things that are functioning back here. So there's other people that are gatekeepers that slow that or funnel that process properly, right? So it's too disruptive for that. Like a classic example for you with printers, when I capture the bytes for a night guard, I always capture it with a byte stick in, and I capture an open byte, right? I send that to the lab. The vast majority of labs will take those two models that are perfectly preserved in that vertical that I want. They print the two models and they make it freehand. They completely lose that vertical dimension I worked to capture, right? So now we put support pins and things to make sure it's indexed so you don't lose that vertical so the lab can make it. So that was just as hard. Teaching labs how to accept cases was hard.
Wow.
Convincing doctors that this is a viable product and that if you've been in the industry, you know this pretty well. There's a lot of KOLs. There's a lot of people that work for different companies. So it's very it's competition. It's a challenge
hard
to them.
To penetrate.
Yeah, and they start talking shit about calling the scanner a Fisher Price and all this stuff because they don't want you to succeed because it's not a product that's they're teaching
get a
on.
Cutoff. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So there's a lot of that.
Wow.
So there's a lot of barriers to break through. Do you think a Korean company who's never sold a scanner in America had a chance to do this by themselves?
No way.
No fucking way. Impossible.
Exactly.
Impossible, right?
Impossible. And then what year was it? 2019?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
So you built distribution in there for them, training, and then you pretty much convinced the market that you got to look at this product and sold a heck of them, right?
That's a very fair statement. We did.
Amazing.
Yeah, our team, we have very competent team members, great sales team, support team. Like we took it serious.
Wow.
So what bugs us is we only sell technology, right? So it has to be successful. Like one bad experience by a doctor, it ruins 100 great reviews we may have, right? So everything has to be successful. What bugs us, it happens a lot to this day, is there's plenty of distribution companies who have no idea what they're doing, right? So what's their recourse? What's the only thing they can do? Here it is cheap. Here it is at cost. Yeah. You know what? You let us build your office, or you buy enough cotton rolls, we'll throw in the scanner. We'll throw in the printer, right? So here I am busting my ass trying to convince you why this scanner is good, why this printer is good, and then somebody else just delivers it.
Giving away.
Doesn't know how to turn it on. I get this all day long. My my direct messages, Armen, I got a Medit from X, Y, and Z. I have no idea how to use it. The person who sold it is no longer there, or just never showed me how to turn it on. There's so much that goes into it.
You got a few phone calls from your competition.
Oh,
right?
that's still do.
Story.
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to share this story. So yeah, quite often I published it, kind of a jerk move, but it's just too funny not to, dude.
Yeah, you got to do that.
So companies like Shine and other companies, multi-billion-dollar company, they're calling our phone number.
The reps, yeah.
Their technicians, they're calling our support number for help on Medit. And we're like, dude, we're your competitors. Like, this is awful for you to be calling us. Or they just Google Medit support, and then we would come
Cad Ray
first.
shows
Yeah.
up.
So the Shine technician calls us wanting help with the Medit. One thing I wanted to do, we didn't get to, was next time I said, if anybody calls us, we're going to process an RMA for them. So return merchandise audit.
Right.
So if a Shine rep calls us, I'm going to give them an RMA to ship the scanner back just to mess with them.
Or pick up the customer. You can just
I'm
sell a service model or something
Yeah.
and teach and train him. When was it that you felt like you have competition in Medit? You actually built Medit in the U.S. What year was that?
You gotta have to define competition, right? So,
Because it was you guys.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden, it flooded the entire market.
Man.
An army of distributors selling Medit.
so-
And no one was happy.
yes. So what happened? I mean, this is textbook.
Right.
This happens a lot in any industry. So Medit was ready to sell, and to sell, what they decided to do was open the floodgates. And I don't know how their accounting system works in Korea compared to the U.S., but every distributor that bought stuff, I guess technically is considered a sale.
Recognize sales, yeah.
Right?
It does.
Whereas I think in the depending on
Depends on the contracts.
Yes.
How do you have contracts with your distributors?
right, because there was a couple other companies where I won't name them. It's pretty easy to infer what I'm talking about. Is they had a bunch of machines in their distributors' warehouse, but that weren't installed or bought. But to the parent company, the manufacturer, those were sold machines. Whereas so they had to do big multi-billion-dollar adjustment on their accounting declarations. No, those machines were
Stuff the dealers, channel stuff.
exactly. So that's exactly, they just stuffed every.
channel.
The only person that didn't get distribution during that time was my mom. I applied as my mom. If you go to their website, they're soliciting distributors. I applied as my mom. She never got a call back.
Oh my God.
Everyone else, you sell cotton rolls, you sell whatever it is. So they just flooded the market, and then they dropped the price. And then on top of that, for us, we took a big chunk of inventory. And I'll be very direct. That's why we didn't take inventory from you, Amir.
Yeah.
We took a chunk of inventory, a lot of inventory, and for this to happen, they dropped the price. So now our competitors who've never sold a machine, don't know how to turn it on, we're selling them cheaper than we bought them for.
Oh.
So it was very rough. So we had a bunch of people return their machines. It was a very ugly scene. So luckily we had just diversified at that point. We picked up 3Shape. So now it's whatever happens to Medit, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
We have so many other things that we're doing.
This
but
is
that was
end
very
of-
pivotal.
In this end of 2022, I remember that.
Yes.
Right, and then
Yeah.
2023, it affected them too, but sold the company. I guess it was good for the founder.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
cashed out a few billion
you
dollars.
can't argue with those guys. They made a
Business
couple
move,
billion,
right? Yeah. You should have asked for shares when you signed them up as picked them
it's
up.
funny you say that. So
Do you regret it?
No, because as a dentist, and everybody knows I'm selling machines, but it's still very important to me to have. If I have a share in a company and I'm selling that product,
Yeah, I
it
see.
just
It's
taints
conflict.
it. It
Yeah,
taints
it's
it, right?
conflict.
So everybody knows I make money selling scanners and printers. That's very open. But I don't want them to think I favor.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't want them to
Makes
think
sense.
they were influenced negatively because of my self-interest.
That's integrity,
devastating.
my friend. That is amazing.
That
you do
would
that.
absolutely
I see.
kill the situation.
The
I have my
trust.
favorites. It's not hard for you to figure out what I like
Yeah.
based on what I don't show stuff I don't like.
Yeah.
Yes, you can't argue with. I doubt the owners are sitting there and the private equity sitting there thinking about what happened to Armen or Cad Ray. The new owners have to deal with the repercussions of that because a lot of people may be jaded by that whole experience and may not want to work with Medit anymore.
Exactly.
I don't know. I can't speak for other people. I know for me, I'm not committed like I was 5 years ago. Like I gave every arm and a leg 100%. And then, well, if you're going to do that, then I'll just focus my energy anywhere. It's not that I'm upset or anything. It's just I'd rather focus it on other products.
Absolutely. What's your go-to scanner these days?
Literally all day long question, right? So the first thing I like to establish is there's no such thing as the most accurate scanner.
They're all good.
They can all suck and they
I
can all
see.
be good. You have to know how to use it, okay? The main thing is when you're scanning a flat surface, it gets very confused. Like when I scan this area here, forget the colors and everything, it's just a flat, redundant, symmetric surface. If I go and continue scan here, the scanner gets confused, puts data from here over here, mixes up the data, and we call it the Viersing effect. Takes data where it doesn't belong and puts it over here. So you need as much disruption to that flat anatomy as possible, which is generally teeth.
Right.
So that's why teeth are easy to scan. Edentulous ridges and dentures are not. They're more tricky. Keeping it very, very simple.
Interesting.
So you have to know where the errors are, just like you have to know if you don't have the right supports for your printer, that stent's not going to be, the liner's not going to fit, or the retainer's not going to fit. So you have to know where the errors are. So every scanner, doesn't matter how well it's researched, whatever the article says, the very next scan you do can be wrong, and your restoration might not fit. So who cares if it's the best scanner, right? So that's number one. There's no such thing as the most accurate scanner. For sure, I've trained thousands upon thousands. I mean, if you could go back to the CEREC years, tens of thousands of doctors I've seen in over 20 years. No, I've never seen any new user who's never scanned before pick up that Trio scanner and scan as readily and as easily as they do. A brand new user. So if you're a doc, you have 4 or 5 assistants, they are going to be scanning for you. He or she's going to be scanning for you. Trios is my recommendation because you don't want to sit there and teach every one of them. I can show every other scanner how to get to that level of performance, but it's much more of an effort, much more of a learning curve. So for sure, the easiest to implement is the Trios. Okay. So, and then to answer which one's my favorite, I mean, I'm constantly testing. When I do crown now, I scan it 4 or 5 different ways. I print it, I mill it, I take x-rays. It takes me 3 hours to do a crown because I'm always testing and stuff. I got to make sure it's viable. So I don't have a straight answer about which one's my favorite. Which one do I recommend? If you're going to be delegating, you want the easiest learning curve.
That's Trios.
Trios. $10,000, $15,000 difference. You decide what do you want to do, and you'll be shocked at how many people say, I want the premium experience, I want to have that whole experience, and they go with that. And there's definitely some. I was there early in my career. Every dollar counts.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to take a big bite. You know what? I'm not as busy as an established doctor. He or she's cranking. I've got a 2-hour opening between my patients. I'm new. I'm a startup, which was my case when I started. Then I... what was I going to say? Then they have the time to learn how to use a scanner. There's dirt cheap scanners coming from China. They can all work, especially in the posterior. The anterior is more tricky. They have enamel. There's a lot of refraction, reflection. The anterior is way more tricky. But if you're just doing posterior dentistry, which is the vast majority, you know this very well from the line of work you're in. But if you're doing vast majority of your work in the posterior, it's quadrant dentistry. I can make any scanner work.
You can go cheap on that.
Yeah.
How much do you practice these days?
I do quite a bit. So it's not the same practice anymore, like I just defined. So usually by the end of the week, I'm teaching a course. I'm there. I'm licensed in Nevada. I'm licensed in California. I practice in most of the work I do is in Los Angeles. I'm usually here Monday and Tuesdays. That's why I'm meeting with you here. Fridays I'm all over the place lecturing. But it's not the traditional practice anymore. It's all to make sure this stuff works. That's what I'm testing. So.
Essentially, yes, I get it. So testing products, but it's still keeping the hands.
I absolutely have to keep working. It's another stuff works.
Yeah, it's part of that, and it's part of your success in the dental distribution. It's just you're very relevant. Things that you say, I've seen it in lectures that. It's truly things that you practice and people are just absorbing into your teaching. It's not selling. You're just telling them how to maximize it. It's brilliant.
I think you just summarized it. I don't think of it that way. It's
exactly.
not. It sounds so dramatic the way you just said it, but we're just like your friends. Like your buddy asks you, should I buy this? No, don't buy that. Yeah. This is where the trouble is. Okay, yes, this is work. It's just conversation. It's just as natural as can be. I mean, I guess it's as powerful as can be as a sales tool, right?
But you don't look at it like that. You're really recommending it to colleagues, and that's working. And I've seen the customers that you've been onboarding, and just Armen said this, we bought it, he was right, it works, I'm happy. It's a big
can't tell you how gratifying. There's nothing else you can ask for. Whatever line of work you're in, when somebody says thank you and they spent money with you, what else could you ask for, right?
Amazing.
So that's been a lot of fun. Yeah, and I don't bullshit people. I tell them if something is a waste of their money, they appreciate that. I would say my biggest thing is right now, most people, the way they use me is they use me to weed out all the bullshit, all this 80% of the information that's not, just give us the meat. We don't have the time to figure this out. You tell us what, and that's what we do. right?
That's brilliant.
And I'm pretty, again, not to be cocky, pretty confident in an hour I can show someone more about scanners, not printers generally. Printers, whole different approach, right? But with scanners, I'm pretty confident in an hour I can show anyone more than they will ever learn with all the other distributors combined.
Very true.
I know that sounds egotistical, but if you've never delivered a restoration in a patient's mouth where your license is on the line and you carry a lot of liability and the contacts have to be perfect, margins have to be fit, you got staff, you got the hygienist giving you a stink eye, all those pressures add up. If you've never been under that gun to see how something performs, you can't relate to the doctor who's got all these other headaches to deal with,
you're
right?
just a salesman.
Exactly.
And is that why I remember you picked up photogrammetry and you dropped it immediately? It was the reason that you didn't believe that it works, or it was too complicated or too expensive?
No, it's a straight business decision, so I'll be direct. During the pandemic, we sold a lot of photogrammetry units for this one guy, the iMetric in Switzerland. And what he did is he did this a few times. We would fly out to somewhere, we would do the demo, would incur all of the costs, and then he would sell to them direct. So we're like, dude, we're not going to put money in it. We're not going to put in, like, I'm putting a lot of effort teaching people how it works, but if I'm going to take this much effort, we're going to spend our money and time, and you undercut us and you sell it direct. Like, no, we're not free labor for you. So,
well, you never picked up anything else. You do right now. I don't think if you sell
we do have a few. There's a new one coming out. I haven't seen it from True Butman. It's they've demonstrated
with the phone.
With the phone.
Interesting.
So I don't know much about it. You may know more. But one of the cameras, like the way the iPhone runs it, one of the main camera you need is like on the back. I don't know, on the back burner. It's not as critical. So they figured out with their software how to switch that and make that the main camera. So for $4,000 is what they were quoted. You can pick up those flags, right?
Interesting.
And then a bigger question, a bigger point you would consider is how much demand is there?
Not
for
that much,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think by now, if you're a candidate for photogrammetry, you already have it. Exactly. Right, so I think the market was pretty small, so we didn't really focus on it. I could be wrong.
Couple of hundred doctors a year, maybe.
How many doctors in the U.S. are doing
full arch
12 arches a year? It can't be more than 1,000.
It's less than. We know that. It's a couple of hundred.
Yes.
Yeah, we know it.
Right?
A couple of hundred.
Now, around the world even, I mean, you sell the Onyx. For that purpose. So you know exactly, actually, you probably have a better idea than I do, but it's a very small market, right?
Very true.
And you're going to spend all this energy and time developing something.
Interesting.
You're not going to go after the small market, right? So we think it was saturated. We didn't really pick it up. A great, phenomenal technology. Price keeps coming down. $4,000 solution with the iPhone. If it's true, I haven't tested it. I have to see it. But it's remarkable. I'll only scan bodies with photogrammetry if that's the case.
Absolutely.
In fact, most people who have iMetric, they don't use scan bodies anymore. They just pick up the information with insanely precise.
Very true.
Do you know why that is, by the way? Do you know why? This
photogrammetry?
Yeah, it might be too
Let's geek out now.
No, it's just very simple. The scanners have a small field of view. Like the Medit's like 15 by 13. The Dex is 19.6 with a side camera. The Trios is 9. So the more you can fit in one frame, the more accurate you're going to be.
When you stitch it, yeah.
Yeah, remember that whole thing I talked about, the dentures?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you have a prep tooth and you have a scan body. And if I scan them in that one green box, I can capture a slice of this and a slice of this. Then this area, I'm comfortable that it's accurate. But if this is so far apart that you go from here, you hit a patch of edentialism, you get here, then you have to assume this is for the level of precision we need for the stuff that we're doing. So you don't. The longer you go on a edentulous plane, the more likely it is you're going to introduce errors.
Yes, accumulated error.
Yes,
absolutely.
So the simplest way of saying it, photogrammetry is a stereo camera that picks up everything you need in one big field of view, where scanners capture them in small fields of view, and they stitch these pictures together, and then one little error here compounds to the point where it has a gross error way down at the end of the other model.
What do you think of the new Itero?
So funny you say that. So I've been talking about this 19 millimeter, 19.6. That's how I knew it. And everybody talks about the depth of field. Some of them are up to 22. Trios is at 16. The depth of field really, vast majority, it doesn't matter. It's that surface scan that you can grab. And no one talked about this, and I've been saying it for so long. And all of a sudden I hear a line say, there's this 25 millimeters, right? So it'll do very well, but at 50 grand, I have no idea. I mean, I know I have a very good idea of what the doctors want. It's not 50 grand now.
It's not 50 grand.
It's not 50 grand. So is it worth that difference? I have no clue.
You haven't tested it? Did you test it at Chicago?
Yes.
Did you like it?
No, I didn't touch it.
Yeah,
I don't want people to think I'm up to no good.
Yeah.
I watched a demo.
Interesting.
But conceptually, yes, it could. Now,
50
my
grand.
wife is a general dentist. She works for this great doctor in Vegas, and she does a lot of Invisalign. Loves Invisalign.
Yeah,
it's
I was
hilarious
gonna
because here I'm competing against Invisalign with the scanners, but at home she loves it, and
She
more
uses
power
it.
to her. And they do phenomenally well because they scan every patient. I think that's a very crucial part of this equation. Like, we want to get to the point where there's a scanner in every operatory. Every hygienist is scanning. It's got to be so easy, under a minute. You record people, and we all know it's just about the case presentation, how you discuss things with patients. You may be able to show the wear from 5 years ago compared to today and say, look at how much damage you've done to this. And that's a big facilitator movement for people accepting treatment.
I think that's the reason.
Yeah.
How much money you make with Invisalign and how easy it is to make that.
Yes.
It's justified a $50,000 purchase.
Yes, she loves the hand-holding.
It works,
Yes.
easy, integrated already. You don't have to do anything on that.
Nothing beats their patient treatment
Very
presentation.
true.
Yeah.
So it took me a couple of years to get you on 3D printing.
Yes.
Let's talk about the reason why it took you a couple of years, and then we want to brainstorm about the future of it.
Sure. Let's get into this. So I already explained the cell Robox thing.
Right.
It's such a mess. I don't want to
Yeah.
deal with this stuff.
Sure.
Right. Actually, that's why at Sirona, there's definitely a group of people that love the printer, wash, everything in one, right?
That's why they did it.
Yeah, exactly. We're lazy, you know.
Yeah.
So it was pretty messy to do with that. And then in the beginning, when we first were starting to so in the beginning we're very, very. There's 3 or 4 of us, very, very small, like just no capacity whatsoever to get into printing. So then we hired somebody who was a former employee of yours, and he's in charge of running all that. Mm-hmm. So from the very beginning, I had to put very little effort. I was just focused on the scanners. Now, so one thing I was dead wrong about was the demand for printers. You know it better than I do. I didn't think it'd be this popular to print surgical stents, print models. The next level where the floodgates open is, as you know, aligners and restorative. And if you can get multicolored layers in a ceramic crown, we talked about that before. Your first iteration came out last year. Everybody's waiting to see how it performs before the masses accept it. So those things will rocket propel you for sure. Printing models, very, very useful right now. People making their own aligners, very cumbersome, but it's a big part of
for some, yeah.
Yeah, for some, they love it. They like to do it. Night guards is pretty popular. And like I've told you from before, those things are not a great motivator for me. Like making night guards, yeah, it's great, fantastic. You get the ROI, you pay for it. But once you get into the heavy stuff, where a lot of doctors make their substantial income in the practice, that's when the floodgates will open.
Absolutely. I remember you said, Amir, I can't go comfortably talk to my doctors and say, use this, you'll make money, you'll be successful with night guards. I remember that was the first conversation we had. And
fair statement, right?
Yeah, fair statement.
You can.
Yeah, it can, but it doesn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then later we got into restoratives. And I think that is absolutely is helping more and more
It's
for
a
the adoption.
very long-term play for you, the restorative. It's going to take a while, but big reward at the end. We all know printing is going to replace milling.
So final thoughts, let's think about future. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for dentists today with technology?
One takeaway for the people who've never done digital, there's half the dentists still haven't.
Yeah.
What they say, a third of the dentists still don't have intraoral sensors, X-ray sensors. I don't know if that's a legitimate number or not. But a lot of these people wait for the right time, and there's never a right time, right? They're always saying, I'll just get the next one before the next one comes. And then it's just been delayed and delayed and delayed. They're very, very apprehensive. It's too disruptive. And I think printers is a great way for somebody to tip their toes into the water and try out digital stuff. So we always thought that it would be scanners driving the printers, but now I think it's kind of switched. You probably see that yourself. You couldn't get a printer unless you had a CT scan, intraoral scan, all those things before. Now it's reversed. There's plenty of people who have printers with no way of digitizing that. They're getting into it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're extremely gun-shy, if you're extremely timid about taking any risk for your practice, printer is a good way to go. You have plenty of applications for it. You'll see the return of investment. You'll see how your staff likes it, how you like it, and you can parlay from there. Having said that, most people bundle the scanner and the printer. It's probably more common.
That is common, very common.
Extremely common. That's what I meant about me being wrong. Like, I didn't think there'd be that much demand, but there is. Just like that photogrammetry market we discussed about. We both agreed it was very small. I didn't know how big this demand's going to be, but it's absolutely substantial. It's pretty fun to watch, especially with what you guys have accomplished.
Thank you, Armen,